Thank you everyone for joining the Angel Investors panel at Digital RESI. We're very happy to have you join us. So this panel is moderated by Yaniv Sneur of the Mid-Atlantic Bio Angels, and our other speakers are Thomas Vogelsong of Kaito Technology and Life Science, Faz Vashi of Life Science Angels, Petra Mayer of Golden Seeds, and Ben Soon of Sandhill Angels. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to a great discussion. With that, Yaniv, I'll let you lead us off.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody, and thank you for being on the panel with me. Maybe we'll start with some brief introductions about yourself, perhaps, and about your group. Petra, do you want to start us off, perhaps?
Sure, I can do. So I'm Petra Mayer. I'm German, so that's a very German name, I think. I'm with Golden Seeds for about 2 years now, and I'm based in New York City. So Golden Seeds is an angel group that is specializing on supporting and investing in women-led businesses. I'm sure we talk a little bit more about it. My background is commercial, so marketing and sales in the pharma industry, but also in CPG, and in pharmacy retail.
Thank you. Ben, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your group?
Sure. I'm the member of Sandhill Angel in the Bay Area for quite some years, and we have a wide range of industry sectors, including life science, and we do have a group to dedicate on that subject. And my background includes the R&D to marketing, sales, and also the distribution.
Thank you. Hey, Faz, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your group.
Excellent, thank you. I'm Faz Vashi with Life Science Angels. We invest in medical device, biotech, pharma, and digital health. And my background is in medicine and in science, so microbiology, immunology, virology, and I love being on this panel. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Thomas, tell us about yourself and about your group.
Sure, I'm Tom Vogelsong. I'm an engineer by background, but got into business development and executive management. CEO of a startup that was out raising money from angels, so I've been on that side of the table. More recently, I've joined Kaito Technology and Life Science, and we are actually a company that we're all shareholders in Kaito, and so our money is pooled together, and we decide as a group what companies to invest in, and we focus again on med tech, biotech, but also tech, and we often join other angel groups.
That's great. I'm Yaniv Sneur. I'm one of the founders and currently the manager for Mid-Atlantic Bio Angels. We're a life science angel investor group that invests exclusively in therapeutics, devices, and diagnostics. We invest all over the world, and my background is an entrepreneur, having started and turned around, bought, sold companies for the last 30 plus years. So speaking of that, I'd like to talk to you about perhaps your perfect candidate. So Faz, why don't you start us off? Which companies are your perfect candidates? What stage, what therapeutic areas, geographic limitations, you name it, time to exit? What makes a company special, perfect? When you see a candidate and go, this one's for us, this is it. This is it.
Everything you just mentioned, everything has to be perfect. So let me be very specific. So what we do is a human endeavor. This is a human business. Angel investing, venture capital, the entrepreneurial side is a human business. So first and foremost, we look for really amazing people who have a vision for the future. In addition to that, obviously the team makes a lot of sense, but intellectual property, having something in place that you can actually protect, it's so key in the life sciences. If you don't have it, then you need to have a strategy for developing it out. Understanding your marketplace and knowing exactly where you're going, and having a roadmap of how this is eventually going to either end up in a healthcare system, end up in a life science venture, being able to understand where that's going to happen in the marketplace. And then clearly having some sort of an exit strategy is very helpful. It's hard to predict the future, but you wouldn't be an entrepreneur unless you were trying to nudge the future in some sense, right? So as far as geographic limitations, we do like to invest in C Corps. So C Corp in Delaware is very typical. We've looked at a lot of deals. So Life Science Angels have looked at a lot of deals outside of the US. And again, those very particular ones, the ones that, again, want to have US as a marketplace, want to have a C Corp entity in the United States, those are the ones that usually get our attention.
Okay, great. Tom, what about you guys?
Sure. Well, I think all angel groups have well, all investors have the same motive of making money. But I think one of the reasons that we get involved in life science is we also like the impact of what we're doing. We feel good about helping mankind be healthier, helping people live longer, healthier lives. But more specifically, we measure ours on 5 criteria. One is, are you solving a real need out there? Is there a medical need that is significant? And do you have a unique technology, like Faz says, something that's IP protectable, you can build a moat around it. So if you have a good idea, a competitor is not going to come and clean you out. The human aspect, we look at the team makeup. Do they work well together? Do they know what they're doing? Do they have the ability to scale it? The regulatory, that is one unique thing about life science versus other fields, is what is their strategy get through FDA regulatory, worldwide regulatory? And then finally, is it a fit with keto? And our model is make a lot of small bets early on, high risk, high reward. We usually get involved in seed rounds, sometimes early A. But if you're raising, $10 million on a $50 million pre-money, you're too late for us. We do not have any geographic limitations, made a number of investments in Canada, a number of investments in Israel, some in Europe, some in India, but the majority in the US. So.
Great. Ben, how about your group?
Actually, we focus quite a lot on the IP and the team. I don't have to talk too much about IP. Everybody knows how important it is. And the team is like, we have 2 kinds of team in our mind. First of all, is an experienced management team who has been in the industry for many, many years, who understand the landscape very well. And you just give them the investment and they just let them go, and they grow wildly. And also, the other kind of is a very young management team. For example, like a postdoc, a PhD student, have some new idea, have some new patent, and we like to invest in the early stage because we want to help them to grow. And we like to have people who's coachable, who's willing to learn, and who like to step out the comfortable zone outside of the lab and facing the challenge in the business world. And somehow they love it, Yeah, the more we share our experience with them, the more they love it. And this will be our perfect candidate. Yeah, so I won't talk too much about it. I have a lot of later. Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Petra, how about you? Your group has a special additional requirement as well.
Yeah, I know. So we're early stage investors and we're looking for real innovation, something that's really exciting. And any kind of idea that's been developed, we like it to be developed with input from customers and consumers. So it needs to really make sense and be like a real unmet need. Then, as you said, we have our special requirements. So we are really focusing on the leadership. So who are the leaders, and we are looking for female leadership. And as I think some of the others already said, they should be coachable, right? So a great leadership, great vision, great market, know what they're doing, and are coachable. IP is of course important. In terms of geography, we only invest in companies that are based in the United States. So very clearly. No, but we are in the United States, we're everywhere. So you can meet golden seeds like East Coast, West Coast, Texas, we're everywhere.
Okay, so in terms of our group, we focus only on therapeutics, devices, diagnostics. We invest all over the world. One of the things that, obviously, that we very much like everybody else that has mentioned this, we're looking for a strong management team first and foremost. I mean, we're angel investors, so we all have at least one day job, right? We had to make sure that whoever's running the company has our best interest in mind and can do it well. We can't jump in and do their job because we're busy doing a few of ours. So one thing that our group has in addition to an additional requirement perhaps is we try to avoid investing in companies that will in the future require VC funding. So we believe that angels can do multiple syndicated rounds of maybe $2 to $5 million each per syndicated round, and then you can do 3 or 4 or 5 of these rounds. We've seen companies do that and reach maybe $20-25 million in total funding. And we think that that's the sweet spot for angel investing. And if you need more than that kind of money, then we consider that to be the VC space, and we recommend that companies go there directly, but skip us. So we're not interested in investing ahead of VCs. where we sort of like to see the world delineated in different ways. So in terms of, we talked about being an angel group and folks with a day job, et cetera. How do you get involved in companies post investment? Tom, do you want to give us a feel of how, if you are, and if so, how you get involved afterwards?
Sure. Well, Keto is, again, a small investor. We don't play majority. We won't lead. We will follow, and we'll work with other angel groups to syndicate around. So we can't really dictate the terms. We don't take board seats. We are there more as a bench. If somebody needs help, we have an extensive set of experts around our table. If they want to, they can reach out to us. And so we're at their beck and call. And one unique thing about Keto is we are actually a company and not a group. And we are looking at doing an IPO ourselves. So we have to be very transparent. We have to have solid metrics. And we're already starting, even though we're not publicly traded yet. We have to go out each quarter and revalue all our companies. And we've invested in 60 in the past 3 years. So we do have to meet with each CEO quarterly and get an update from them, how they're doing. Are they meeting their milestones? Have they had any future funding events that would change their valuation?
Okay. Ben, how does your group get involved post-investment?
Yes. We do have a class manager for each deal we invested in, and the class manager meet with the entrepreneur regularly, and usually they release a quarter report or like an annual report to all of us. And whenever they need some help, they shout out in the group, and the people with the relative background will come out to help them. Of course, you invest, you want them to grow, right? And since our group has a vast variety of backgrounds, like corporate executives and entrepreneurs and VCs, each person has their own expertise to help. So I guess we cover quite a large spectrum to helping the entrepreneur to grow.
Foz, how about yourself?
So I like to say that Life Science Angels is a bunch of geeks who love the life sciences and want to be helpful. So we do a lot of work as just independent advisors. Pre-investment, we also take advisory board seats. We also take board seats, actual board seats with our investment. We like to be helpful post-investment with syndication. So I know all of you on the panel here. I'm looking also at the attendees, and I know a lot of people. So I make it my business, and I know all of you do the same thing, to just get to know the bright lights in the industry so that we can connect the dots. And as Yaniv said, if we can help entrepreneurs get financing and to get their milestones achieved through our own efforts without having to go to external sources, that's what we like to do. We like to be super helpful and roll up our sleeves.
I think that's one difference between angels and VCs is we're all putting our money out of our wallets into these companies, and we really do want to help them. We're on their side. In our model, again, if Keto invests, it also opens up to all our shareholders to personally invest in their favorites. So there are a couple of companies I really, really like. I will invest my own money. I will be there. I'll be checking in with the CEO. How can I help you? What can I do? Can I connect you to people that help the next round or whatever?
Petra, how about your group?
Yeah, I can only echo what the guys have said. So we have about 300 members, and many of us like to be very involved. So we do take board seats at times. For each deal, we have a liaison person. So that's the person the entrepreneur can call. So if they need any introductions or anything, I'm very active in many industry sectors, not only in healthcare. We get like quarterly updates also, and we do a once a year annual summit where we kind of used to get 200 people to New York City. Now we're doing it on Zoom, and most of our portfolio companies. So it's actually a fair bit of interaction and a lot of contact. So we just know what's happening and be helpful.
Yeah,
Okay.
can I just tie into something that everyone said just very quickly? So when we're talking about people and things that need to be done, milestones achieved, I don't think it's realistic for any of us to expect that the entrepreneur is going to be perfect in 100%. I mean, we love to find that one perfect person, right? But there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. And so if the entrepreneur is savvy enough to know what they don't know, what they do is they fill those gaps with advisors, with people that they know can help them either with the fundraising, with the regulatory, whatever the case may be. That's the kind of person we're looking for. Know what you know, but also be realistic about what you don't know.
Do you find that those CEOs reach out to you often, or is it, I mean, is it more of a pull or a push kind of relationship?
I prefer the pull. It's very difficult to push on people, as we all know, to push on people who are super busy, right? I prefer the pull. And again, that shows a self-awareness aspect of the personality of the person. If you're aware of what you don't know, then you can, the 5 most important words in life you need. Can you please help me? And of course, use that judiciously, because you don't want to ask for help for everything.
Do you
Yeah,
see
I
a lot
find
of
it's quite
companies?
challenging. I'm sorry.
Ben?
Yeah.
Ben, do you see
Find
a
it's
lot of
quite
companies reaching
challenging.
out to you?
Yeah, quite challenging is to let them know what usually they don't know what they don't know. And then they say, oh, I'm too busy for this. You know, I don't think this is real. I don't think I need this. I know that fits for me. And most of the founders, they are being screened in the graduate school, and they have their own confidence there. And try to feed some information into their head is a challenging cognition process. So you need to find the right time to feed them what they don't know and let them know you don't know about this. And we happen to know. It's quite a long, interesting march there.
Very interesting. So I want to change subject a
Can
little
I
bit.
just add one
Go
more
ahead,
thing, Yaniv?
Faz.
I'm sorry. I feel like
Sure.
your doppelganger
ahead.
over here in the right corner. But I got to say one more thing, right? So, and everyone thinks their biggest problem is money. And money is a catalyst. It's not the solution to all your problems. There's so much more. So I want to make sure everyone knows that too.
That's very true, Faz. But hey, a lot of money could really go fast, right? You know?
Not always. Lots of examples where too much money makes the soup really go bad, right?
So that's a perfect segue. There is a lot of money out there right now. A lot of, I don't know if you want to call it crazy, stupid money, but there, I mean, if you look, there is a ton of money. How is that affecting what you're doing, Petra?
Recently was working on one deal, and in mid deal, somebody kind of took the whole investment budget, and also the company doubled their valuation. And you're like, okay, now we worked on this for 2 months, and the price has doubled. And someone has obviously been driving this behind the scenes. So, well, I've only experienced this one, but I mean, to the companies, I would say, watch who you're letting into your house, because sometimes you just wonder how smart entrepreneurs are doing deals where you think, really, these are the people you want to work with, So yeah, interesting right now.
Oz, what do you think?
Yeah, so that's a big danger sign. So Petra, thanks. We've had a couple of those too, right? So here's the crazy thing that entrepreneurs just don't realize. Yeah, you might get that money that you want, and yeah, you might get that doubled valuation or triple valuation. But guess what? You're going to run out of money at some point, and then you're going to have to go to the next round of financing. How do you justify the incredibly skewed valuation on the next round? You're just setting yourself up for a disappointing next round of financing.
Down round.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, bad word, but yeah, but that's what happens when you don't. There's something structural about financing that you have to understand. If you don't structure early investments, next round, if you don't structure it properly, the whole house just falls apart, regardless of how brilliant you are and how much IP you have.
Sure. Tom, anything to add?
Yeah, let me look at the flip side of crazy valuations is on the exits. You're making the investments early on, and if those valuations right now are through the roof throughout the whole cycle, and one of the things that's really popped up the last year or two is SPACs. And we're starting to see exits that are amazing from SPACs coming in and buying our companies. So that's the nice part. On the front end valuation, again, Keto does not lead rounds. We don't set the prices. So we kind of let people like, Faz and Petra and Ben lead the round, get through the hard part of negotiating a fair price on that. Our founder, his philosophy up front, he's been investing for many, many years, part of Band of Angels, Kretsu, Life Science Angels. He said, follow the smart money. And that way you'll make better investments.
Ben, anything to add?
I want to add that the founders have to be aware what they're going to facing in a down round. Say, the money is there when it started, probably 2 years ago. right? But if we echo this as like a blockchain, that a lot of money for a blockchain 2015, 2016, then what happens? And I mean, everything's like this. It won't last for that long. I would say 2 or 3 years. But later on, you have to face the next round. The VC will ask you, what's your valuation? What's our value added? And what does it get from me to investing for the A round, for the B round, for the C round? And the number is critical for the next round investor. So I will say, keep this in mind. And the investor, they like numbers.
So going back to, angel groups are very friendly with each other. We syndicate on a regular basis. How do you syndicate? What is the process? Do you do that on a regular basis? Ben, do you want to start us off with syndication?
Yeah, sure. I just started in a syndication deal with Sacramento Angel, and they come to us, and also Ben, the Berkeley Angel Network as well. So we actually, some of our members, they are in the different angel groups. So we share lots of deals, and we share our due diligence study. And sometimes people, they have their own network. They happen to know the founders. You won't believe that the world is indeed very small. We just take the phone call and have a couple of calls and know who you are, who are your advisors, who are colleagues, what people think of you. That's a background research there. So we share a lot of information, and also we share our own expertise. Like some of them have the certain kind of research background. Some people have the RE background, which is really, really strong, and can predict what's going on after winning investment. So with all those experts, add them together, and we help each other. Mostly, it's a value added for each other's expertise.
Petra, how do you guys syndicate?
Yeah, so we are very structured, I think. We have many female members. we have agreements with about, I think, 25 groups to say, okay, guys, we're working together, and this is the base paperwork. So we're sharing, I think, information and documentation. But what's very helpful very often is we have a lot of members that are members in other groups, right? So they're probably already working on a deal we're just starting to work on. So you can actually tap into the work they've already done, and we're doing diligence calls together and stuff like that to just save some time on the diligence work also. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Faz?
Look, entrepreneurship is hard, and the angel investing side of it is also hard, right? So I always tell people either side of the table, BYN, BYNI, build your network before you need it, right? Build your, so we all make a concerted effort to get to know Yaniv because he's a supernode. You need a supernode in your network. And then from there, you can connect out to the network. So entrepreneurs have to build their network. We build our network. You have to understand the landscape of how to connect the dots. And so the way that we do it is somewhat formal, but it's also really about friendship. So whoever in our group ends up becoming the deal lead for a deal, we all who are part of that investment will then reach out to our vaster network of life science investors and promote the deal. And then that comes with a deal memo. That's why diligence is so important, right? So we need all the information that we can get to put a deal memo together, the term sheet that we put together, who's going to be on the board, and then essentially reach out to our friends and say, hey, would you like to co-invest in this? And then ideally beforehand, like Petra said, we'd like to know that Golden Seeds has already touched this deal, has already looked at it. Can I pick up the phone and call Petra? Yeah, I can. And that's how it usually is done.
Faz, you're actually a supernode. You're one of the life science angel investors syndication call every month, right?
Oh, only by appearance, because I look so much like you. People think I am you. No, but on a serious note, so yeah, for 6 years, I've been running the Angel Capital Association's Life Science Syndication Call. So 1 hour a month, anyone who's a member of ACA, and it's for investors, for angels who want to promote their deals. They show up on the call, and yeah, they promote. That's kind of, again, some of the milieu of how we all speak to one another.
Thank you. Tom, how about you guys? Do you syndicate? How do you syndicate?
We have not done a deal without syndication. Every deal we do is with another group, and I think we've done investments with everyone around this table. So we try and help out with the due diligence. We'll point deals in different directions, but it's a personal network kind of thing. I pick up the phone and call Faz and say, hey, what do you think of the deals? Life Science Angels looking at it. our members are members of other angel groups as well. It's that personal cross-coupling. And one of the things I think the Angel Capital Association and FOS are trying to do is make it easier on the CEOs as well, because we're all kind of looking for the same information from a CEO. And if they have to fill out 25 different forms for 25 different angel groups, it's a pain for them. So we're trying to move on to the ProCedar platform. I know there's Gust out there, some things where we can actually share the documents back and forth and don't have to bug the CEO for the same kind of information. So hopefully that'll continue and make it a little easier to syndicate.
Speaking to that point, every one of us is a little bit different. Every one of our groups is operating a little bit differently. What is that one or two things that you want, if you had a chance to talk to an early stage company, what is it that you want to make sure they know about your group before they apply? Tom?
Well, again, we are an early stage investor. We're willing to take a risk on something that's preclinical, that has not gone through the FDA. So don't come to me, do your homework on us too. I mean, if a company comes to me, I'll spend at least a half hour looking over, going to their website, looking at their pitch deck and deciding. But I expect the CEOs to do the same on us. Look at our website, look at our profile. All our companies are listed there. You can get an idea of what we do, what we don't. So I think if they haven't done that, then they go down in my estimation just coming in the front door.
FOS, what do you want companies to know about you guys?
We're data driven, so come to us. Yes, I mean, we do like to look at early things, and ideas are great, and we'll give you tons of advice. But really, what we look for is come to us with some structure in place. Make sure you've got your C Corp documents or your LLC ready to go. Make sure you've got your IP strategy ready to go, and you can articulate on what that is. And then ultimately, look, you got to prove that there's something there. So some preclinical data is truly very, very important for us to look at.
Petra, what do you want companies to know about you guys?
Well, I think we really like early stage. So we run something we call office hours. So office hours is open to anyone who even has an idea on a napkin, right? So you can come and just meet us and talk about your idea. And, sometimes you meet a company and then 3 years later, they come and apply. So we like to really get in contact with people early on. And then same as I said before, please look at sort of who we are. So sometimes it's like you presented with 5 guys who present and you think, okay, where's your female leader? On leave today or what? So, you need to know who you talk to, right? So it's know your audience, and then we also have a clear sort of 10-page structure we like to see. I would just make sure that the information we're expecting is included, and less charts are better than too many charts, to be honest. So 59 pages is too much, very clearly.
Okay, Ben, what do you want companies to know about you guys?
Yes, Sandhill Angel been here for over 20 years, and we love to help in the ecosystem. And we do have a session called the Raw, that the early startup founders, or just have the idea, you're in the a little bit late stage in the early startup, you want to come to present to our members, and we'll give the feedback and give the suggestion, and even like a follow-up with you, and to eventually invest in you in a later stage. So that's how we show our support to this ecosystem.
Okay, so in terms of our group, we do have office hours as well. We call it First Pitch Life Science, which is an opportunity for companies to pitch for feedback as opposed to pitching for money. And we run that on a monthly basis, and that companies sort of chat with us, with a group of panel of our group, and get some feedback about their presentations and help them get prepared so that one day they are ready to present to our group. The first thing we always look for, and we want people to know, is we're ready to invest when there is a commercially minded management team on board. If it's still the scientists, if it's still the professors, that's great, but don't call us yet. When it's beyond the science project, when it's actually a commercial minded team that's looking to how to monetize it, then we're ready for it. We want to see things that'll change the standard of care. We want to see large and growing markets. And we want to make sure that it's an angel-only opportunity, which means, you're not going to be we're not going to be needing VC money in the future. So those are the kind of things we want people to know. So with that also, how do you want to be approached? And I'll start that off. All of us have day jobs. And so we want people to follow the process. We tell people go to the website, look at our investment criteria, and submit an application if you think that you're the right kind of fit. And then we have a screening committee that reviews applications on a monthly basis. However, I know that many other groups prefer to have a personal relationship, a personal connection, or discussion ahead of time, right? Before the company applies, whatever. So Ben, how do you guys prefer to be approached?
Actually, we do have a personal connection thing in our group. It's like some angel who knows the fund for a very long time. They save lots of time for the due diligence. At least we know who he is and what he's capable of and what he's needed from someone who knows him very well. That's very, very good information. And also, like we discussed before, we do have a syndication. And if the other angel, for example, some people in the life science angel, they know the team for a very long time, they refer to us. They actually helps a lot. Yeah.
Foz, what's the best way to approach your group?
Get to know some of the members, do your diligence. Some of our members actually post on LinkedIn that they're a member of Life Science Angels. Not everyone does. We have 150 members, many outside of the United States, many on the East Coast, Mid Coast, West Coast. So get to know our members, follow the process. It's all online, right? And you know, and be patient. Be patient. This is not going to happen just overnight. It does take time. But first and foremost, I would say get to know the members, get some feedback, you know, come to some of our events, and then apply.
Petra, what's the best way to approach your group?
Well, you can actually apply online, you know, even without ever having met anybody of us. And we do see a fair amount of these kind of applications. If you've read the criteria, you looked at the website, you know what the presentation looks like, I think that's feasible. But we kind of prefer if we meet people before, so either at office hours, and there's many events in like the local chapters where you can actually meet with us. So it's definitely better to have a connection in, I would say.
Okay. Tom, what's the best way for somebody to approach your group?
Yeah, for us, it's that human connection. We don't have an online application. We're not as old as you know, the other angel groups are on the table here. We're only 3 years old, but we do have 120 angel members, 30 of which are very active in our advisory board that makes the decisions. So again, based around the world, based around the United States, get to know some of them. I always go back to what Foz drove into my head, BYNI, build your network before you need it. So get to know us. If you're going to get funded by us, one of us 30 has to be a champion of your story and sell it to the other 29. So you really got to have somebody who's passionate about what you're doing in that group. And then you have a much better chance of being funded by us.
Okay. Karen, before I continue, are there any questions from the attendees that we should perhaps address at this point, or otherwise we have additional questions that I'm happy to continue with?
Yes, there have been a few questions from the audience that have been posted in a Q&A. Beth Azar asked, can you give more specifics on what you mean by strong management team? Are you looking for specifics such as technical expertise, clinical expertise, business expertise, or a combination of all?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with that. When we talk about strong management team, we first and foremost for us means people who know the commercial path of how to make money from this. What are going to be all the aspects that you're going to have to deal with when you have to bring this asset to a final exit, which for us usually means some form of a purchase by a large company. And somebody who understands everything that's involved and can bring in the technical, et cetera, et cetera. But Petra, do you want to, I know the management teams specifically are your specialty as well, but.
Oh, our specialty. No, I would agree with you. I think the skills need to be there. So you kind of look for, is there a skill gap in the management team? But then we're definitely looking for great leaders. So certainly personally believe that a startup company needs to have values. So it needs to be like a set of values, and you need to see that the people really collaborate together and work together. And then the third one is what Faz mentioned before. I think the CEO at least needs to know, what do we know, what do we not know? If you don't know something, you need to have an answer how to bring in this kind of gap. And then open-minded and coachable, I would say, is the most important thing. And if you pivot or something happens and you have to change the plan, you have and and you find a solution. I think for us that's okay.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I would say you have a skill set, I guess, starting from zero to have several exits in your life before. So that I consider you had several exits experience at like 100%, what you need to be successful. Then you go between, and the TC have your scale to mark the management team what's needed, what's you don't have it, and see what we can help you to fill that gap. Yeah.
Okay, Karen, any other
I think
questions?
that's I think that's one reason I like life sciences, because most of the entrepreneurs have experience. They've been around the mill a few times and know what to avoid, where they have their own strengths and where they have their own weaknesses, compared to things like games or bitcoins, or anybody's jumping in, and if they've been in the field 5 years, they're an old timer. It's a little different in life science.
Yeah. Karen, any other questions?
Yes, so we've had, there are a few questions here with regards to the desire to not involve VC investing. So there's one question here about the rationale for preference for no future VC. One about how can a company know if they won't need VC funding in the future, and about what type of exit you are envisioning with that limitation to that round of funding in the future.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump on it, but I want to give somebody else an opportunity if you want to say anything about it. Faz or Tom or anybody else before I jump in?
Go for it, Yaniv.
So when VCs have a different model in many ways than the way we do, in the way that we structure and the way that we invest. And when the VCs come in after the early stage investors, you usually see that the early stage investors get crammed down, and the VCs take liquidation preferences and others, such that it often is the case that the early stage investors don't necessarily see a return on their investment, or the return is significantly diminished. And so we don't want to knowingly put ourselves into that position. So what we like to do is, and I think every entrepreneur who puts together their business plan and pitch, you look at the goal first, and then you work your way backwards. For us, we want to see the exit usually happen by way of an M&A, of somebody acquiring you. And so the question is, if you look at comparables, what kind of companies such as yours have been acquired at what stage, usually in the future? Sometimes you require different data or to be at different stages, but you could see, if you look historically, the kind of exits that have happened in your field. And then you have to see what kind of data those companies have to produce. What did they have to do to get ready for that exit? And then you work backwards. How much time and how much money did it take to get there? And you break it down into your different milestones. And that creates your story, your financial story from here to there. Some companies, for them, the story will be less than $20 million. For some companies, that story would be 40, 50, 60, $100 million. For those where the story is the greater than $30 million, that's a VC story, and I think those companies should go there right away. But if you can break your story into something that will not require more than $20 or $25 million, reasonably expectations associated with that, and you can break it down into chunks of $4 to $5 million. Every 1 or 2 years raised, etc. Then you have an angel story on your mind, an angel story that you can sell, and that can happen in our community. Hopefully that answers that. Any other questions?
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs just don't. I'm sorry, I'm just going to feed on to what you just said. A lot of entrepreneurs don't understand that last money in, the next round of financing makes the rules about what happens to the previous round of financing. So we just went through an exit. We had a phenomenal pharma company that did an amazing thing. We were advocates, we were investors on every round, and we were on the board as well. And I'm sorry, the returns were not very favorable for us as an early investor. So entrepreneurs really need to show some level of empathy. They don't have to, but they should show some level of empathy for early stage investors who take those risks. And then, as you rightfully said, Yaniv, that next round of financing, or when they get to growth capital, those folks make the rules about how much they want to take off the table for early stage investors like us.
Anybody else want to add anything?
I don't know. At Keto, we don't have that constraint of no VC rounds ever. Sometimes it is where they have an early, friends and family to build a prototype. Then an angel round's a little bigger, and then a VC round, and then an M&A or an IPO. We have one right now that we invested early on in a seed round. We invested in the Series A. Now they're worth $150 million. They're raising 50 million, and they're going to be a unicorn probably in 2 to 3 years. And so we will still get a round, but I think that's probably the exception where every round is a step up. And if it's not, then we will get screwed.
Karen, any other questions for us?
Yes, there is one more question. What is your opinion about angel organizations that charge a fee for pitching?
Anybody want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take that in general, right? So look, a lot of angel groups are nonprofit entities. There are some that are for-profit entities. At the end of the day, they're all entities, right? And so they have their own overhead. They have their own approach to what they need for processing applications or logistics, or again, all the other overhead. So I'm of the opinion that entrepreneurs should not have to spend extraordinary amount of money to raise money, okay? And I'm an early stage investor. I think but you need to understand that every angel group is different, right? So if you have a relationship with a group and you understand their process and their people, and there's a reasonable fee to get your application in the door, then I think it's fine. You have a relationship. There's no guarantee of anything. But you also have to understand that each of these entities are an organization of their own, and they have their own processing. Now, extraordinary fees upfront and fees on fees and fees, and on top of that, and it becomes tens of thousands of dollars on something that entrepreneurs don't have. Think twice about that.
Anybody want to add to it? Any other questions, Karen?
I think one aspect is we look down on companies that do hire an investment banker to go out and raise the money for them. I think the middleman fees is something we avoid. But I think it's right. Every angel group is different as far as the fees, and you got to do your homework on us once again to understand that structure.
Any other questions, Karen?
There's only a question about your contact information, so you can choose to include it in the chat, or you can have them reach out to you through partnering. It's up to you. Other than that, I would love to hear you continue your discussion.
Okay, great. So I want to change a little bit and talk about some pet peeves. Any specific pet peeves that you have?
You don't mean this pet back here.
Not that no. It's a cute one, but go ahead, Faz. Tell me about some pet peeves of yours.
Pet peeves.
Yeah.
So look, this is such it's a privilege, one, to work with entrepreneurs. It's a privilege to work with amazing, successful angel investors and VCs and the like. So the only thing I would say that is a pet peeve is anyone who doesn't fully understand the human component of this, right? And is just turning this into a money machine, or is only looking at us as one cog in their wheel of success, but they're not thinking about the holistic picture. That is one of my pet peeves. Is I don't like that non-human component of it. We're trying to build relationships, friendship. We're trying to build trust. We're trying to help achieve milestones, and hopefully everyone succeeds in that regard. And I like people who think that holistic way.
So I have a pet peeve, and that's usually companies that involve their family in the running of the factory. When I see an application where the CEO is the son of the inventor and the mother is the accountant, and I shake my head, because I always believe that the dinner table becomes very complicated, and the business becomes very complicated when the dinner table is involved there as well, and that both entities end up suffering, and usually the business ends up suffering because people want to maintain their relationship with their family, and the business is the one that suffers, because you're not going to fire your dad,
No.
you're not going to tell your kid that they did a horrible job, and so that's one of my pet peeves. Petra, anything on your list?
Yeah, and that for us, it's very often husband and wife teams that arrive. We always, it seems bizarre because of course we're inclusive and we like men, but it's like if husband and wife team and it's the women, the lady is the leader really, and then the guy talks 98%. Okay, now, it's interesting. It's just like, I mean, I think the relationships, if there are too many relationships and there's an issue on the private level, you see it on the business. So I actually agree with you. If you have your family or close relationship, it is it's probably an opportunity because there's trust, and it's family. But the risk is, if things go wrong on the private side, and obviously, you have it fully in the business. So,
yeah. Ben, anything on your end?
I can agree more with that. And that we invest in your home business, and we don't want to get into the business of your home. That's very
like
hard
that.
for us to
That's a good one.
differentiate. Yeah, how do we do the due diligence on that? It's very challenging. I'm not saying that we're not investing the business structure like that, but it'd be very difficult for angels to make the judgment down the road.
Yeah. Tom, any specific pet peeves that you guys have?
Yeah, mine's a little bit different. It's that when the CEOs are not open with me, and I kind of think of a long-term marriage or a relationship with a significant other, that if you're not open with the other person, it's not going to work long-term. We're both on the same side. We want to make this company succeed. And I've seen some companies where I was really excited and I thought, great, I'll invest personally, get into the due diligence, and they realize they're not opening up to me about their challenges, their issues. They don't want to tell me about their technology because they're afraid their competitors will get it. We couldn't survive as an investment group if we were sharing secrets with their competitors. They've got to be completely open with us, go through the ups and downs again, like a marriage together, and share it and work through it together, and then you'll succeed long term.
Okay. Any other pet peeves anybody has?
We do have another question that came in.
Sure.
There is a question here. Are entrepreneurs expected to suggest terms of investment, or will an angel group make the first offer? What is the typical range of valuations that are acceptable to angels? And do you prefer convertible debt versus equity?
Okay, great question. Who wants to take it? Or at least part of it? So let's break it down. Convertible debt versus priced rounds. What is your preference? Faz?
Preference is priced.
Petra?
Same.
Ben?
Same.
Tom?
We do about half and half convertible notes or priced, but we won't do safes. And I hope the industry gets away from safes. That gives us no protection.
Okay. So we're on the same page. We will not do safes. We prefer to have priced rounds, and I think the questioner deserves an answer as to why. Because when you have a priced rounds, we basically say this is how much we think the company is worth. And if you have a convertible note, it's basically saying, well, we can't really agree on what it's worth right now, so let's kick the can down the road. And then we'll give you a discount maybe to the next round because we know that you're early. But the reality is that that discount doesn't necessarily compensate for the extra risk that the investor took at this stage. So it's much better if you can to reach a decision in terms of being in a priced round. Also, the section 1202 of the code that allows investors to be able to have up to $10 million or up to 10 times their investment being exempt from taxes if they are held for at least 5 years, are for priced rounds in C corps and not for LLCs or for convertible notes. So there's definitely an advantage for investors to go with priced rounds. So what were the other parts of the question? Because I know that there were several parts to it.
Yes, there's also the question about what typical range of valuations, and should the company expect the angels to make the first offer of valuation?
Great.
Or first offer of terms of investment.
Yes, got it. So Foz, what is the range that you like to invest in terms of valuations? Do you have a cap?
As low as possible. So on a serious note, look, there's some range of formulas here, right? For early stage investors, they want to own somewhere between 20 to 30% of a company. But and then the A round of financing, they want to own 15 to 20%, and it goes on and on like that, right? So you can figure out some general ranges there. But ultimately, here's what we do, right? We like to sit with the entrepreneur, if they're reasonable, work backwards from a terminal value, put a spreadsheet up, someplace, work backwards from a terminal value, and look at what subsequent raises they think they're going to have, and then come back to a reasonable point where you agree on a number, right? We agree on a number that gives us these general ranges. So ultimately, we want to be on the cap table and we want to get an ROI. We won't get a 30x return, but we know that with dilution, at least when you get to your destination, we'll possibly get a 2x or a 3x because things get diluted along the way. That's how we do it.
So with that said, where does the range of valuations fall for your group?
Yeah, in general, right? So it depends on the category, whether it's digital, medical device, biotech, or pharma, right? In general, it ranges anywhere between 3 million, 2 to 3 million on a low end, all the way up to probably close to about eight or so. That's kind of the range that we're in. We're definitely below the double digit.
Okay, Tom, what about your group?
Again, we tail on to others, but I'd say, yeah, in the single digits of millions.
Ben, how about the valuations in your group?
Yeah, we're in the same range. For the device, 8 million is the most. I always say that's the limit. But for therapeutic, could be a little bit higher. Depends on the nature of the deal.
Okay, Petra, how about you guys?
Yeah, agree. So therapeutic can be higher. If it's 100 million, it's too high. We had one recently, but it was a typo, and you think, okay, 100 million.
We had a 100 million one, but we rejected it. No, it wasn't a typo. So I think that generally what we're saying is valuations usually $3 to $10 million. I think that when somebody comes to us with a 10 million and higher valuation, the discussion becomes more challenging. Yes. We're not saying no, but there's a lot of different hoops that company has to jump through, and it has to make sense from a lot of perspectives. We recently got an application for a company that's been around for less than 2 years with a valuation of between $15 and $20 million. And that just raises eyebrows as one of those earlier discussions we had before in terms of stupid money, perhaps, and not necessarily what makes sense. But with that said,
the math just says, Yaniv, you're absolutely right. It's just basic math. The waterfall exercise, the math just doesn't work. So yeah, you make my forehead become all crinkly because I have to do the math. It's like, don't make it so complicated.
It makes it for easy math. There's no exit there. There's no ROI. I think that's what we're trying to say to the entrepreneurs is work your way backwards. Look at what your exit is likely to be.
Right.
And so make sure that there is a healthy ROI for those investors. So with that said, Petra, do you prefer the companies come to you already with a valuation, or when they leave it open and they ask you to put a valuation?
Well, they usually actually come with a valuation, but I tell you, if anybody presents in New York City, we have a strong Wall Street group. So, they'll be straight on the valuation and it'll be negotiated down, for sure.
But you want a company to come in with a valuation already?
They usually do, but yeah.
Ben, how about you, girl? When people approach you?
we're definitely fine with people without evaluation, so we can set a valuation, but that doesn't happen all the time. Usually they come with a valuation. Yeah.
Tom?
We want people to come with a term sheet that they've negotiated with someone else. So we'll bypass that question.
Foz, do you guys
Yeah,
set valuation or what?
we can, and again, we want to be partners. We're not in the business of sitting there and trying to negotiate and somebody comes in with triple valuation and then we have to bring it down to reality. That's not really what we want to do, because that first and foremost sets the stage for you're just there to bargain and you're not there to find a partner. We're partners. So yes, we can help with setting a valuation if you don't know what it should be. We want to be reasonable. We want the entrepreneur to succeed and become a millionaire along with everyone else.
But you expect that when they approach you, they already have a valuation,
We've done both scenarios. So most, as Petra said, most do come in with some number in mind.
We do in our application, in our group, we ask for a specific evaluation. We ask for what the current round is, what the previous rounds were. We ask for a lot of that supporting information. So yes, in terms of the expectations from our group, the same kind of price range, the same kind of expectation in terms of valuation, etc. Any other questions, Karen, before we wrap this up?
We just got one in. Future rounds dilute early investors, but the higher valuations in each round keep the investments growing for early investors. So how does the ROI go down with multiple rounds unless they are down rounds?
Faz, you want to take this one? Anybody?
I'll take the first part of it. It's just it's math. It's math, right? So yeah, the down rounds will definitely wipe people off the table. The dilution factor, depending on how much money is raised, right? I already said we might expect early on to see a 20x or a 30x, but by the time all money is in, and let's not forget, just put aside dilution, remember terms. I already said that the last money in sets the terms, right? So there's a lot of predatory terminology that goes into those last rounds where, multiples that they get back. I mean, there's some other things, side letters that are in. There's a lot of legal things that people can do at that late stage that takes away any sort of ROI that I might see. And I've already experienced it. It does happen.
Yeah.
And being the outlier, I will say that's why we do consider convertible notes, because then we can't get crammed down. We're the same, we're pari passu with a discount over the next round on the downside.
It has its own issues, but yes. Anybody else? Petros, Ben?
I definitely agree. It's just simple math to do the math, and then you know what we think about it.
Yeah, and I think that many of us try to make sure that there is some form of down round protection for us in our agreements. So we try to disincentivize the entrepreneurs from coming up with inflated valuations to begin with, so that hopefully we don't bear the brunt of the reduction in future value. But it could always happen. I think with that, Karen, I think we're out of time. Right?
We are, and thank you all for a wonderful discussion. I think that the audience agrees with me, given the number of questions and the comments that I've seen. So thank you all. Thank you to our attendees, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, panelists, so very much. This is wonderful. Appreciate it all.
You.
Thank
you
so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.